a little bit of a news roundup for you today. Leave some of the drama behind, not all of it, because some of the drama actually permeates into the news. It did actually occur to me in the build-up to the Fulham game, there were a few people that were saying that it would be very West Ham, very much like West Ham, to beat Tottenham and lose against Fulham, by the way. And it did actually occur to me, and I was speaking to my son about it, and my son's sort of 14. I said to my son, this is what it's like. This is what it's like, and has been for as long as I remember supporting West Ham. It's just sometimes you get a little break from it, but that is very, very much the West Ham way, by the way. Okay, so first story of the day, the 10% shares that are for sale at West Ham. You may well remember that there's 10% shares available to the Gold family shares. Obviously, David Gold died, and then just shortly afterwards, very, very suddenly, very, very sadly, his daughter died as well. Leaving his granddaughter Scarlett, having sadly lost her grandfather and her mother within a short space of time. The shares were held by Venessa Gold, 25% of West Ham ownership by the Gold family. They decided to sell 10%, and they basically mandated Rothschild with going finding a bidder. Sean Weston yesterday tweeted, X'd, whatever it is. He put out a message that it was likely to be an American investor, actually, and a completely different American investor, not Trip Smith, who we already have there. So it does appear there's going to be lots and lots of investors at West Ham, rather not one sort of omnipotent shareholder there or major shareholder, just everybody sort of owning a little bit. I think the Premier League's got to be a little bit careful with the American investment, because there's a lot of it everywhere, and obviously the model of American sport is sort of no relegation or anything like that. So we have to be very, very careful that I think football protects the promotion and relegation and the football pyramid, as we like to call it in here, which in turn protects grassroots football. It's unlike the States, we don't have a college system here, which obviously that supports growth in sport over in the States. So it's really, really important, particularly when it only takes 14 clubs out of the 20 in the Premier League to ratify something. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. But anyway, yes, so new. Does it mean new ownership? Probably not at the moment. But yeah, just another shareholder at West Ham, basically. Not the biggest news in the world. David Moyes has given the players 2 days off, basically, following the drubbing against Fulham. Now, look, I guess he had to, really, didn't he? It's a little bit after the Lord Mayor's show, it has to be said, but I'm sure I made my feelings clear on other videos beforehand. I basically said he should have been rotating, he should have been resting before that. He really should have done. There were a couple of rumours that came up after the event. One of them was this rumour about illness, and that everybody was so ill before the game that David Moyes had to really gather together there were only a few players, and all the players, and basically Moyes himself was ill, everyone was ill, so they just did what they could just to put a team out. One rumour, another rumour that there was a massive bust up at half time, and the players took control and came out with the tactics in the second half, with the players' tactics. I mean, I just don't know. They can't both be true. It would be my view on that, because I think if everybody was ill, then they just wouldn't. Everybody would have known at half time that it was forced upon them, that the tactics, that the personnel, that nothing else could have happened. And I'll tell you what, whoever came up with those tactics, I blamed it on David Moyes. I do think it was David Moyes. The tactics in the second half were horrendous. Let's be fair. Was just the wrong shape to go to. So I would hope that certainly wasn't done by committee. I hope it wasn't done by anyone. But anyway, what I would say on that is, if I just prefer to believe, I think, that just the players were knackered because of lack of rotation. Either one of the other two options is unpalatable for me. Either a ruckus inside the changing room is not particularly good. Or everyone being so ill is not good, because if I was one of the young players who've just done so well, if I was one of the under-21 players, I'd be looking at it thinking, well, if I can't get in now, when everyone is sick on their sick bed, or David Moyes is looking at it and he only has 4 players that aren't. That's the story. 4 players that weren't ill, and I can't get in now. I'm not getting in at all. Anyway, that's that. They've got 2 days off. A couple of bits of transfer tittle tattle. One of them were Ian Maatsen, linked with Ian Maatsen again. Chelsea fullback, was on loan at Burnley last year. Almost signed for Burnley at the start of this at the end of the last transfer window. 30-odd million, didn't go through. Now, we've heard from the club that there is, well, the club, I'd say we've heard, the club have leaked that there's no interest in this player at all. Which would be, I think it's one thing not to have interest in a player. I don't agree with that. He's a good player. It's another to be saying, well, look, we like him, we can't get him. One thing is abundantly clear. Somebody has made a decision at that club. And I'm almost past caring who it is, but someone's made a decision at the club to not bring a backup left back in. And that was at the point where we thought Cresswell was going to go to Wolves. And even when he came back from Wolves, there was that rumour that he was... In fact, I don't think it was just a rumour he was training on his own. There was pictures of him training on his own. That's a bad... Whoever's decided not to bring in another left back, that's bad. But at the moment you don't bring one in, give Ollie Scholes a go. Do something. Do something else. Anyway, so that's quite interesting, that one. So I don't believe there's any truth in us in Maatsen, but I'd be amazed if we weren't looking for another player to play at fullback. Now, the interesting thing is Fabrizio Romano said in his column yesterday that West Ham were busy looking for players, and it was the the directors and the board. Now, we know that Fabrizio Romano's got really close links with Tim Steiten. So looking at a number of players, but he wasn't ready to commit and say which players they were. So, but Maatsen's name was separate to what Fabrizio Romano was saying. So he was quite adamant that West Ham are going to be doing a lot of business. That's at odds with what the club are saying, which is basically there'll only be a striker, and if we do so, it'll only be on loan. I don't know. They can't both be true, clearly. A lot of this stuff just completely conflicts one the other. So look, I'm not claiming to know what the truth is on any of this stuff. I just bring you the news and a little news roundup so as you can make up your own mind. It's just the news that's out there if you do a little Google search on West Ham. The other one was Slanky, Dominic Slanky, of course, having a really, really good season. Had a great result against Man U, didn't he? He's played very, very well for Bournemouth this season, of course. So we've been linked with him. We've been linked with him since the first game of the season where he tore Nye for Good, a new one. And apparently, it's being said that West Ham would hold no interest in Solanke. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second, actually. Look, Solanke was a player who didn't quite make it at Chelsea, didn't quite make it at Liverpool. He dropped down the league, and now he's at Bournemouth, and he's doing well at Bournemouth. Make no mistake about it. And by the way, I think Bournemouth's new manager has got them playing really well. I don't say this in hindsight. I've been saying it about Bournemouth for a little while. I really like the way they play football. And it looks like, excuse me, a little frog in my throat there. It looks like that new manager has got something about him, no doubt about it. But to suggest that there's nothing attractive about West Ham for Dominic Solanke is ridiculous. It's worse for West Ham when you're in a situation you see a 5-0 drubbing and it looks bad. But there are a lot of teams who've got their arse kicked over the last week or so. A lot. And I think the outside perception of West Ham is not that bad. Do you know what I mean? Listen, I'm sure players talk and I'm sure agents talk. But the talk's been going a long time. We still managed to sign plenty of players in the summer. So if we really wanted Dominic Solanke and we could persuade Bournemouth to sell him, he'd come to West Ham. We'd pay him more money than he's getting at Bournemouth. He'd have European football. To suggest that he wouldn't be interested and there's no attraction in West Ham for Solanke is ridiculous. Whether we want him and whether we need him or whether we can do better is a different subject altogether. Actually, it wasn't just Ian Maatsen that the board, or the club insider, should we say, dismissed, was it? He dismissed Timo Werner as well. I didn't like that. I do think he'd do quite well for West Ham. Well, under David Moyes. Again, what would you do if David Moyes getting replaced in the summer? I suggest David Moyes doesn't choose the bloody striker. And by the way, there was a little bit of backtracking yesterday from the board in terms of, the leak that, they're watching the next two games carefully. It was very much, it came out and it was sort of being hinted at that he's quite safe. David Moyes is under no pressure at all. Which, to be fair, I would expect that. I got to say, I would expect that. After the 5-0 was bad. And listen, I've spent the last 24, 48 hours telling you precisely what I think David Moyes did wrong. However, we are still ninth in the Premier League and in every competition. So I would be... Why would the board get rid of him now? There'd be no reason to. I suspect, and look, this is a conversation for another day and not really part of a news roundup. I suspect that West Ham probably know who they want to appoint. And if they're not going to give David Moyes a new contract and they appoint someone else, they probably know who it is. He's probably in work and probably not available until the summer anyway. So for them, it's a choice of steady the ship with David Moyes, or if David Moyes is so bad, they'll have to get a caretaker boss in. But since we're ninth and in every tournament, there's just no reason. It's it's a thrashing. He got an awful lot wrong, in terms of personnel selection and tactics. And I do, as I say, I do blame him. I don't blame anyone else for getting those tactics wrong, and the fatigue levels and everything like that. That's all on him. But it was one bad defeat, and that's that. It's easily rectified as far as the board are concerned. Anyway, I'll leave it there. There you go. That's the news for today. I'll be back tomorrow talking about something or other. Don't know yet. No offer today. No offer. The 8 days of Hammers Chat Christmas are gone, but you can still get 16% off if you sign up for the year on Patreon. Go and check that out. Buy yourself a little cheeky Christmas present.